Hi, good evening. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Dean's Institute. We're going to start a new series where we're going to learn how to create final accounts in Excel spreadsheets. First of all, I would like to show you how a typical cash book looks when it is maintained in a cash register manually. Okay, and what's the difference between the one which I have created in Excel? Uh, First of all, Excel has got a date column, which is not needed in a typical mm, handwritten or manually maintained cash book, because over here we mentioned the date, because one page or two pages, if the entries are too much, are dedicated, so there's no need to mention next to every entry which date it is pertaining to, because it is taken care over here. But in Excel, it's a requirement. I'll come back to that later. Another thing, major difference is we can have a balance column. So after every entry, you can see what's the net leftover balance, but which is not needed over here. But if you want to maintain, some of the companies they do have a balance column also. You can do that as well, but generally it's not practiced. Okay, so I have used the same format. These two columns, it has an inner and outer column for the debit amount, which is actually the cash which was there in the company and the cash which came during the day. So in other words, we can call the receipts, the cash received by the company. Okay, and these two columns represent the inner and outer column. They represent the credit amount, money that has gone out or that is left over at the end of the day, which is over here, closing cash in hand. So it's very similar. And these columns, because money is going out, we can also call them as payments. Uh, this principle remains the same over here. As you can see, there is an inner and outer column, and there is an inner and outer column. This debit amount is the receipt, and the credit amount is the payments. And both have got a particulars column. This basically tells in what way or what is this amount related to. So it is for the ease of understanding what these amounts that we've entered, what do they stand for. Okay, so besides that, uh, generally in Cashbook you don't have these color schemes, but for your understanding I've used these color schemes. I basically used four colors. The blue color, starting from here, it indicates the opening cash in hand, cash which was there at the beginning of the day. And then the green part indicates the cash which came during the day. So in other words, all these amount will be written in the these things will be written in the inner column, and some of these will be written at the outer column. So basically, this is the total cash that is available with the company or which came into the company. And I've used a red color for the payments, the amount which has gone out, and it's till here. And the purple color indicates the cash which is left after all the transactions during the day, and that will be entered in these two columns. So that's what the similarity is. It's just that we do the total in Cashbook, we do the total for the outer column, and the same, because this is the higher side or the greater side, the same amount is entered here, and the values of the outer column in the payments side is done over here, the total. The difference between the greater side, the debit column, minus the credit column, gives you the closing cash in hand amount. So those of you who want to learn how to create manually, this is the format. Okay, so let me reduce the size. You can see it from a bird's view. Okay, so we are going to, not to worry, we're going to go into detail, um, except for the date column and balance column. Rest everything is the same. It's just that you have this one last balancing figure which is mentioned here, which is also over here. Okay, so now let's move on to the main topic, which is creating the same in an Excel sheet. So first of all, I've opened a sheet and I've saved it by the name of final accounts in Excel, because in future we're going to learn profit and loss, balance sheet, and various other aspects of accounts. So I rename this. You can go down, right click, and use the option rename, and you can enter. Just writing over it makes no difference, and that's how you rename it. And over here, yes, one more thing, guys, the difference is here you mention the name of the company and here you mention the date, but over here you directly mention what this statement is: cash book of ABC Limited. And then you have these columns: date, particulars, debit amount, credit amount. Please make sure you have two columns for debit amount, that is inner column and outer column, and two columns for credit amount, inner column and outer column. And I mention it as receipts and payments, which you want to, you can have over here, or it's not mandatory. And then I have a balance amount column. So first of all, you enter the date. So I've taken a date, 2 days back date, 18th of April 2020. I've used the short form of it. So you can go into the date format and you can change it as per your choice. So as of now, I've used the short date format. And okay, the first item should always be the opening cash in hand brought forward figure. This is the figure which is a carried forward figure from the previous day. It could be 17th or it could be the previous working day. So the closing balance of the previous day uh, is the opening balance for the day you are writing the cash book for. So I've taken a figure 50,000. And then every business, as we are aware, sales can be done either through cash or through credit means. So first of all, we take the cash sales into consideration. I've entered some random. If you're preparing for your small company or for some other company, you can mention the actual invoice numbers here and the actual amounts. Here I've just entered some fictitious figures. So I've entered invoice 1, 2, 3. Uh, Please bear in mind, any entry you enter over here, it's always better to enter the date over here, because later on if you want to uh, sort the data and other things, it will be very helpful. So I will highly recommend you to enter the date. Basically, Excel has got the autofill feature. uh, Now for example, if I enter 18/04/20, and then I can just come to the bottom edge, it will turn into a plus sign, the cursor, and you can drag it down to wherever you want. Okay, now since it is automatically changing the date, so we can do Control D. So it will give, D stands for duplicate. So if you do that, it will give you the same date. Okay, so coming back to what we were doing, so I've entered 10,000, 8,000, and 12,000. So come to the, I've entered into the debit inner column, which is C. Now over here I put a formula. I put is equal to sum, open parenthesis or open round bracket, which is shift and 9. You have to press and hold 9 and uh, sorry press and hold shift and press 9 to get the open bracket, and then select the cells which are pertaining to the total cash sales, and then press and hold shift key and 0 and press enter. So that will give you a sum of this. The other way to verify that is select the cells, highlight them and come down over here. As you can see, it is showing sum 30,000, so it is matching. This is the way you can be sure that what you've entered is correct, the formula, because sometimes we may miss one cell on the top or in the bottom, or we may take another cell from the bottom. So just to be sure, you can highlight it and come here and check if the sum is same. Okay, and it's also giving you the count. This is another way to know the count, right? So, and then the second part is the sales which we did on credit. We are assuming that some of the customers have paid into their account, into that credit account, in order to uh, pay back whatever they owe to the company. So we assume that we receive uh, one amount from customer 1 and customer 2, and which is 15,000 and 20,000. So I'm doing the same thing over here. I put sum, open bracket. I've selected this two cells, these two cells, shift and 0, and I press enter. So again, if I check over here, it is matching 35,000, so my formula is correct. Now this is just for illustration purposes. This may not happen every day. It's just to show that there can be other sources of income. It could be rent, it could be interest, it could be commission, it could be fees that you are getting. This fee also should not be if your main job is like you're a consultant, so then it will come as over here as your main business. This is if it is not your main business, uh, then only you can consider it under other incomes. Okay, so if you have an old furniture or computer machine or any asset and you've sold it and you got some amount from it, that also you can enter over here. Same principle applies. You enter them in the inner column. Okay, one more thing, guys. See, whenever I go down, I can't see the headings. So sometimes it can become a pain for us to understand, oh, are we entering the information in the right column or not? So in order to avoid that problem, we can click over here and we can go to view, and we can come to freeze panes. So basically it will freeze this part and this part, so they don't go anywhere. So as I'm going down, you can see the inner outer column, these headings are intact. The fields are just sliding up the rows, but the headings stay intact. And even if I go over here onto my right, you can see the column B is not moving, is not going out of sight. So that's the very cool feature, which if you're not aware of it, you must use it. It'll help you avoid a lot of typing errors. And even if you're trying to find out some information, you'll be looking at the correct column you're supposed to be looking at. Okay, so now again you enter in the inner column and then do the same thing, do the sum for these values, but now you're aware of how to do it. So And again, once again, I'm checking. See, it's 14,000. It's matching. Okay. So initially, till you get the hang of it, I suggest it's a good idea or practice to cross verify your values, because sometimes dragging with the help of mouse can be a little tacky and you may not get the formula right. Okay, so these are the typical ways how funds can come into the business. So I'll just scroll it down so that you can see. Basically, I have categorized them into three categories. That is, and let me bold this. So, okay, let me change the color, font color. Total cash sales, total cash receipts from customers, and other incomes. So these are the three main ways you will get cash into the business. So if you do feel that there's anything else I have left out, you can mention it in the comments column. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Now let's go to the payment side. Like we do, like cash sales are done, purchases also are either cash purchases or credit purchases. They can classify into cash or credit. So assuming that we are making some purchases for today uh, by paying cash. So that will come over here. Let me change the color right now. So I hope this is visible. No, not that visible. Okay, let me try. Okay, let me stick to black color. Let me bold the font. Okay, so these also I can bold them so they become more visible. Okay, so cash purchases. So assuming we bought from two different suppliers, we made two invoices. It could be from one supplier, it could be from two suppliers. But basically, we made two purchases, one of 20,000 and another of 25,000. But over here, you must be careful. Sometimes I also go ahead and make a mistake by going and entering the figure here, which topples up everything. So you have to be sure that you enter in column E, which is the inner column of the credit amount, and enter both the values, and then you do the same stuff. You sum them up. Okay. So similarly, I'll go a bit fast now since you've got the hang of it. I suppose. So, and similarly, we are paying back to our suppliers from whom we have taken some credit. So it's just the opposite of what we've done, guys. So to supplier 1 and supplier 2, it may not necessarily be in this order. It's just for illustration purpose. I've tried to, because you may not always go by this order. Whatever goods you may need, or whoever you need to pay or urgently, you will pay, not necessarily supplier 1, supplier 2. And in real practice, you enter the name of the supplier. So that will help in creation of a ledger, which we can learn in this next video. Okay, similarly, I've entered some values over here, 15,000 and 25,000, and I've done a sum of that. Now, this column is generally quite extensive and exhaustive, because we do a lot of petty expenses, but I've just listed a few uh, for showing different expenses. There will be much more, guys. So now I've taken fuel expenses, tea, coffee, or snacks, you could say. If you pay rent, rent can also come over here in other incomes if you're receiving rent. But if you're a tenant and you're paying rent, you need to list it out here. So if you are receiving, then it becomes an income. So you need to enter in the debit side of it. But these are all your expenses which is going out of the company. You will enter in the credit side, okay, of the columns, okay. And then you have taxes. If you have electricity, you will definitely have whatever taxes. I'm not mentioned specifically what tax it is. uh, Now electricity bill, water bill, salaries, it doesn't come on a daily basis, and salaries are generally paid through online remittances or through checks. But you may pay to the maid, or you may pay to people, uh, but there is a condition: you cannot pay more than 10,000 as per the government guidelines. So I've just entered a salary for a maid. So let me mention salary for a maid. It's better to mention for the month of, we're in April, so obviously pay for the previous month, March 20. So this helps us keep a track of which months we paid in future if there is a dispute. So we have proof to show. Okay. So you enter the values in the outer column, and then you sum them up over here. Basically, let me show you again. SUM and open brackets, select all the figures, put the closing bracket and press enter. So as you can see, okay, uh, and then yeah, the last thing is closing cash in hand carried forward. There it was brought forward, now it is carried forward, because today's uh, closing balance will be the opening balance for tomorrow. So, okay, let me show you. There's a small change. Let me show you these formulas. So basically over here I have put equal sign, and I've said that whatever is there in this cell, I need that value. So if I go and change this value, automatically value will change. So Control Z is to undo what you have done if you want to. Okay. So basically over here, this requires equals. We need the opening balance plus. In such cases, I generally like to put them. I put a sum, and I like to put them in bracket so they're neatly arranged. So basically, I want to add this value plus I want to add what we received, close the bracket, minus what did I pay. So since I did not pay anything in this over here, there's no payment done. So as it is, it's the answer is 50,000 plus 30,000, that is 80,000. And then I come to the bottom edge uh, handle at the right, and I drag it down. So as I drag it down, I would not be doing, because I think so it will copy the, yeah, so I will not be copying this down, because it will copy the um, format as well. So basically this is what this whole formula is. So since I had already done, so right up till here, see over here there was 44,000 minus 20,900 gave 23,100, and this is just duplication of that. So I would prefer, so if I want, because I want to remove this color over here, so I'm selecting a cell where there is white screen. I'm going here, clicking here, so it will copy the format over here, and I can drag it and bring it here, so it makes look easier. So these values get highlighted. So that's about it, guys. This is the way. Let me just, yeah, show you and just do a small recap. Basically, you enter Cashbook of ABC Limited, and then you have two columns over here, starting with the date column, particular column. and two columns for debit, one for the inner, one for the outer, and two columns for the credit amount, inner and outer, and this is for the balance amount. Okay, so okay, sorry, I think this is more visible now. Okay, then basically uh, we have divided into four quadrants. So the first one is the opening balance, which is the blue, and then the green pertains to what money came in, and the red what money came out, went out, sorry, what form money went out, and what are we left with at the bottom. That's the closing balance in purple. So you can follow the color scheme or you may not, but it's easier for you to read or anybody else. So I recommend that if you follow this scheme. Okay, so basically total cash sales, then enter whatever invoices. Here I have only three invoices. You may have more than this, you may have less than this, depending on the volume of business you have. And then whatever cash you might have received from your credit customers, if you have them, then you can enter it over here and put the total over here by putting a formula. And if you have any other incomes for that day, you can list them here and enter the values in the inner column, and the total you sum them up over here. And the same thing applies on the purchase side. You have the total cash purchases, whatever you purchase, list them, but this time you have to enter in the credit side, which is column E, and then sum them up over here. And whatever payments, if you have bought something in on credit from any supplier and you're paying it today, that you can list it over here and you can sum them up over here. And then finally, whatever expenses, this will definitely be there on a daily basis, uh, bearing these things which are on a monthly basis. But other expenses, there, sorry, there was because the data got shifted, that's why it was asking, so I said no. Okay, basically these expenses happen on a daily basis. See, if I'm trying to move some data onto a cell where there is data already, it gives us that warning, which is a very good feature. um, so it helps us to not to by mistake erase our own data or rewrite some other data on it and the earlier data is lost. And then coming back to the last bit is I've created this is equal to, I want whatever is there in this cell, I want this. For this, I've taken this column plus this column minus. Sometimes if you have this problem, guys, you can click at the bottom and then come up and then press enter. So many a times if the formula is too long, then you have this issue. So you can use the solution which I've suggested you, and that's just drag it down, and then you can remove this color scheme as I showed you using the format pattern. Thank you for your time, and we will meet in the next episode. Thank you. Next lesson. Bye. If you've not subscribed till now, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Press the bell icon so you get the notifications of my next video. Do like and comment and let me know if I've missed out anything or you have something else to say. What is the best thing you liked about this video, and you can also like you may tell what other type of videos you would like me to make it for you. Please let me know in your comments. They are very valuable and we appreciate a lot. Thanks. Bye for now.